Welcome to Down the Road. We got a lot of topics we're going to cover today. We're going to end up talking about what happened at CPAC. Or, is Donald Trump still the voice, the face, the man when it comes to the Republican Party? We'll talk about that. We're going to head to Sanford Hospital, get a chance to find out and get an assessment of where we're at when it comes to vaccines. Also, $15 an hour. Should we be doing that? Should we be raising the minimum wage to that? My answer is yes. So, a lot of things to cover, not the first of which, or the least of which, I should say, is get a chance to visit with Tim O'Keefe. Now, Tim is with O'Keefe, O'Brien, Lenson, Foss attorneys. So that means that he's one of the partners and probably one of the ones that formed it, which I know he is. Tim, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Great to be here.
You know why I asked you on this whole situation that's going on in Bismarck, and now we had a chance to visit on my radio show about the potential of liability and lawsuits here for the state of North Dakota. But going through the documents of what Luke Simons did in his time as a legislator there, and of course he still is, but now Republican leadership has called for him to resign. That's changed since the last time we talked. But one of the reasons I asked you to come on is because I gave the details as we went down the road last time, but they're pretty tough, is what they are.
Yeah.
Is there the potential of a lawsuit here for the state of North Dakota?
Sure. There is a potential. It's not an easy road. The state legislators do provide some obstacles in bringing a suit. There are, it's interesting to me that even in the human rights statute, that legislators have exempted themselves as employees of the state for that purpose. So is it possible? Yes. Will it be a tricky road to go down? Absolutely.
What if they all join together? What if they, similar to what many others have done in high-profile cases, where they all threw their name into the hat and said, you know what, I'm going to sue them. Let's sue them together. Would that help?
Absolutely. The more evidence of the wrongdoing, of the harassment, the better, as far as being successful as a plaintiff in that type of litigation. And they're going to have a claim against the state of North Dakota, but also against him individually. He's acting outside the scope of his employment, so that's an important legal term. But as a legislator, that's not one of your duties to harass the staff and to exhibit the kind of behavior so outwardly towards staff to make them uncomfortable in the workplace. So he's going to have his own personal liability, but certainly the state will be brought into it as well.
For those of you, and maybe I should have done this earlier, Luke Simons is a state representative on the Republican side of the aisle from Dickinson, North Dakota. I always assume that people know exactly what we're talking about, and I'm probably wrong about that. But Representative Simons has been accused, and there was a file about that thick on what he has done as a state legislator in terms of physically and mentally abusing women. Women that he saw as working for him. And so there's a lot of questions about that, but the women started coming out. They started pointing out what he had done. And, of course, that case file got larger and larger, and now it's been made public. Tim, you say it's very difficult. Is it about money, or is it about, in many cases when you take on a situation like this, is it just to point out to the public what happened and basically get your pound of flesh?
So often it is. So often it is just so this doesn't happen again to other women, other people that have been affected in this manner, to avoid it happening again, to bringing it to the forefront. The Legislative Assembly has the power to do that, and we'll see what they do in the next few days. But for most of the victims in a situation like this that we've represented over the years and that I've seen in other court proceedings, it's far less about the money than putting an end to it.
So does it help in the case of North Dakota when the leaders in the Republican side of the aisle come forth and a couple of things happened? They tried to address this. It's found out now that they did. They held meetings and they took the steps to try to get his head on straight. Does that help or hurt? And the reason I ask that is, it shows an intent to fix it. It also shows that they knew about it before it happened more.
Correct. So there is a joint rule 901. If you just go onto the North Dakota Legislative Assembly website, it's the first thing that pops up. And so the Legislative Assembly has decided this is what we consider to be workplace harassment, and this is how we're going to deal with it. Clearly, they've dealt with it, but it doesn't help them when they haven't really taken it to the point of appointing a panel to investigate, or an independent investigator, coming up with findings of fact, conclusions of what actually happened. And the more it happens, the less serious we can take their ability to prosecute their own and to look at their own and police their own assembly members. And so at some level, if they don't take significant action, it's going to be worse for them in the long run.
So what happens if Representative Simons is successful in what he's saying? He wants them fired. He wants the legislative council thrown out. He wants
Sure.
it. He believes it's being partisan against him, and he wants them all fired because they're in the majority. What happens then? I mean, does that bring an even thicker, bigger lawsuit?
Well, it could. It could certainly do that. But again, what we're talking about is on both sides. What evidence do you have for the claims that you're making? And what are you going to do to protect the actions that you have or have not taken? And so if they actually followed their own policies and procedures, we should be able to see more than we're seeing in the public eye right now. Because what I'm seeing is they're really setting themselves up for that, tie up in the court place where it's going to get expensive. And I know they're going to stand behind that, well, we followed the procedures, we did the best we can, these things take time. But at a certain point, you have to pay the price if you didn't do it correctly.
So I want to throw some names at you. And I realize this isn't necessarily on the legal realm, but Chet Pollard, Scott Lauser. Now, Chet is the majority leader. The assistant minority leader is Scott Lauser. And the House caucus chair is Glenn Bosch. Now, all of these three signed a letter demanding and telling Representative Simons to go away. They signed a letter for his resignation. And then you take Kim Koppelman. Now, Kim Koppelman is the Speaker of the House. Now, he's running around trying to justify it. He's running around telling people that more investigation is needed and that we're getting ahead of ourselves, and basically supporting every argument that Bastiat Caucus has had when it comes to the Me Too movement. And so does that play into this as well? Does having one of your leaders like Kim Koppelman run around give you even more exposure to a lawsuit?
Well, sure. By their own policy, Joint Rule 901, the Senate Majority Leader, the House Majority Leader are the go-to for handling the initial complaint, or some other designated person. It could be the Minority Leader. It could be in a harassment case, a member of the Assembly of the opposite sex. But if they're just running around playing politics and taking sides without having any actual investigation, any actual panel hearing, or following their own rules, it's 2 pages of very specific definitions and rules and procedures and timelines as to how they need to handle this, and they're really setting themselves up for the same problem.
I have a member of my delegation back home, District 26. Her name is Kathy Scraw, and she's running around telling everyone that, you know what, this basically a railroad job, further investigation is needed, that type of thing. When a woman does that play larger into it than when a man legislator? I mean, when you have a female legislator saying basically it's all okay, how bad does that hurt any case you'd bring up?
I don't think it hurts it at all. I don't think gender plays into politics or politicking for right or wrong. What plays into it are the hard facts. And if they look at their own definition of what sexual harassment is, this just on a surface level doesn't look good for Representative Simon. It just doesn't. doesn't look good.
So how hard is it though? Because the Kathy Scraws of the world are saying, okay, how do we take her word versus his word? If those two are the only ones in the room, and I've been making the argument on radio that, look, you could say that all you want, but when you have case after case after case, there's clearly a pattern here. So how does her argument, the Kathy Scraw argument of we don't, it's one against the other, how does that stand up?
It shouldn't. It just shouldn't stand up. It's some made up legal theory or position that just doesn't follow the pattern. As you pointed out, there's a redundancy and a repetition to this behavior that should be taken into account. So just picking out one swear word or one, off the cuff statement, and just because she happens to be female shouldn't persuade anybody from looking at the truth. And yeah, a lot of these situations, you have his word against his word or her word against his word. And so we have to then weigh the evidence and who's more believable, who's more credible. Going right back to your point, Joel, that the more this happens, the more people that are brave enough to come forward and put their name out there and their job on the line for making this accusation, which is what they are doing, that adds up, and that really doesn't look good for the perpetrator.
Tim O'Keefe, ladies and gentlemen, he's with O'Keefe, O'Brien, Lentz, and Foss attorneys, and as you know now, the leaders in the North Dakota House, except Kim Koppelman from West Fargo, have called on Representative Simons to resign. They've called on him to get out of here. And you can use a lot of words to describe a man like that, and most of those we won't describe here on a TV show. I've been using a lot of them myself, and I'm not going to lie to you about that, because to me, as the father of 2 daughters and a man who's got a wife, and I will point out 5 sisters and 5 granddaughters, there's a lot of women in my life. And if he had done this to any one of them, as many people have said, there would only be one individual looking for an attorney after that. It's really scary, ladies and gentlemen, how a man like this can come to power. When we come back, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to get a chance to talk about the fake patriotism of Donald Trump. Stick around. More coming your way as we go down the road.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
There's nothing more important than family. And at Prairie Rose Family Dentists, we get it. That's why we have more locations, more dentists, specialists, extended hours, pediatric clinics, and even emergency appointments, so you can always be seen. Book your appointment today at prairierosedentist.com. Prairie Rose Family Dentists. We are family.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with 1 truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Pub 21, your one stop for fun, drinks, and food. Our spacious facility provides COVID-safe fun for you and all your friends. With nightly bingo and specials, you can be sure there's something to do for everyone. If you're staying in for the night, we've got you covered just across the way with Pub 21 Liquor. We have a wide variety of options, from wine to whiskey and everything in between. Stop in today at 1014 South 12th Street in Bismarck to see what all the buzz is about. You won't be disappointed.
Welcome back to Down the Road. John Pitney Jr. is a professor of government at Claremont McKenna College. Think about L.A. When you think about that. His latest book, Un-American, The Fake Patriotism of Donald J. Trump. Professor, good to have you coming down the road with us. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
I want to talk about your book. I want to talk about what your book's point is, what it tries to get across. Walk me through it.
Well, it came out over a year ago, and the events since then have basically proved the whole point. That Trump is the Make America Great Again president. It talks about patriotism, condemns people for not being loyal to the United States, and yet his entire political life is a repudiation of the principles of the United States. He has come out repeatedly and said he doesn't think that all men are created equal, and that's the foundational principle of the whole country. He has undermined the rule of law, and that was even before the insurrection. Violated his oath of office in a variety of ways, and basically undermined the standing of the United States overseas. When he spoke to the UN General Assembly in 2017, they literally laughed in his face. So the notion that this guy improved the standing of the United States is about as believable as everything else he says.
So then let me ask you this. Why is it 35% of America, or could be as many as 44, or could be as low as 30 on any given day, believe just the opposite? Believe that he is the true patriot and the one that understands and gets America. Why is that?
Well, in polarized times, there are people who are going to stand with their party no matter what. And in the case of Donald Trump, you have somebody who's uniquely skilled at mobilizing resentment. And that really is what Trump is about. There isn't much of a positive agenda here. It's engendering hostility toward people who aren't like his supporters, people of dark skin, progressives, immigrants. And unfortunately, that's a powerful appeal for a lot of people.
Do you think, Professor Pitney, that he justified that many individuals out there liked the fact there was a man that believed like they believe? You know, that believed there was a problem when it comes to race, that believed there was a problem in America, that we were getting away from this type of thinking and we were being way too inclusive. And I mean, do you believe that there's a lot of people that support him right to the point of what happened during the insurrection because they're so passionate that for once they have a voice who says what they believe?
Yeah, he's both a creature and a creator of this atmosphere. He's a creature of it in that there was an existing base that was ready to support somebody like this. We saw this in embryonic form with the Pat Buchanan campaign in 1992, but he's also a creator, is that he has given it direction and leadership, and that's what makes him so dangerous.
So let me ask you this. This is a man who's still going around saying the election was rigged, but if you look at the sheer numbers of it, he got a lot of votes. I mean, he got a lot of votes. When it comes to what happened at CPAC this weekend, there were still a lot of people supporting him. I know it surprised folks that only, 68% of those individuals that were there said he should be the next candidate to run on behalf of the GOP. But I got to tell you, that 68%, the next number wasn't even close to that. So is he the face? Is he the voice of what the conservative movement in America is about and what the Republican Party is about?
Well, unfortunately, he is the de facto leader of the Republican Party. He claims to be the voice of conservatism, and a lot of the people who call themselves conservative agree with that. But if you look at what conservatives have stood for in the past, just remember, Ronald Reagan was the guy who supported a liberalized immigration law back in the 1980s. Ronald Reagan was responsible for NAFTA. In fact, NAFTA was his idea. So this is very different from the conservatism that a lot of us believed in not that long ago.
So what happens to those individuals? Because he made a special point of pointing out who they were at CPAC this weekend, and he's after them. The Ben Sass, the Cheneys of the world. I mean, they're well within his sights right now. I mean, he's pointing out who his enemies are and who his friends are. What happens to them in this Republican Party? Are they even welcome anymore?
Increasingly not. He is trying to support primary challenges to these Republicans. And in several cases, that will ultimately backfire on the party because some of these seats are very marginal. He mentioned that David Valadao in Northern California. That's a very, very tightly contested seat. Valadao came back to win in 2020 after losing the seat in 2018. He's a moderate, old-fashioned Republican. And if he goes down in a primary, it's very likely the Democrats will retake that seat. So in some ways, Donald Trump is doing the Democrats' work for them.
You know, the Democratic Party, though, is going around and they're touting, and you can see it on the Sunday morning shows, you can hear it in the phone calls and everything, saying that when Donald Trump was president, he had the Senate, he had the House, he lost both of them and the presidency. That being said, this last election wasn't exactly roses for the Democratic Party. I mean, they lost a number of House seats to where they have a very narrow margin now. And yes, they overtook the Senate. I get that. But they lost some Senate seats that they thought were vulnerable. And so, you know, are the Democrats right to be thinking they're in great shape?
Democrats need to think carefully about what went wrong for them in 2020 as well as what went right. And one thing that went wrong for them is that they didn't do the door-to-door campaigning. You can understand that because of the pandemic, but ultimately that disadvantaged candidates in a number of seats. For example, one progressive Democrat ran in the suburbs of Texas, Candace Valenzuela, a former student of mine, came very close, but after the election, we had a chat with my students, and she said that the door-knocking pause was extremely hurtful to her and to other Democratic candidates.
As somebody who's knocked on a lot of doors, both in my runs for the state Senate and my sister's run for the United States Senate, I can tell you this, it works. If you're not knocking on doors, it's not a good day as far as campaigning goes, and COVID changed a lot of that. But I have to ask you this. You know, we talk a lot about the chasm, the split in the Republican Party, how this faction over here, you know, the Liz Cheneys of the world aren't getting along with those folks over there. But the Democratic Party has a far left wing as well. And Joe Biden is you know, placating. I mean, he's going along with them on a lot of different things, where us on more center of the party aren't exactly jumping up and down and high-fiving. Who wins that battle? Who wins the battle in the Democratic Party that in the end gets to define what type of presidency Joe Biden is?
That's a great question. And another thing that hurt the Democrats in 2020 was the phrase defund the police. Now, you ask the people who advocated that, they said we were talking about reforming police. You know, a lot of things that made sense if you look at the specifics, but the phrase defund the police was a gift to Republican opposition researchers. And I say that as somebody who used to be a Republican opposition researcher. As soon as I heard that, I thought, oh, these guys are in trouble.
Yep.
So the thing going forward is they have to avoid phrases like that. They have to avoid positions that alienate large numbers of Americans.
Ask yourself how It's the Economy Stupid worked. You know, it worked. And it's one of the reasons Bill Clinton won. Defund the police was absolutely ridiculous. Mr. Pitney, Professor, thank you, sir. Where can people find your book?
Amazon and Title is Un-American, the Fake Patriotism of Donald J. Trump.
Good. Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
When we come back, Dr. Doug Griffin's going to join us, Sanford Health's Vice President and Medical Officer. We're going to talk about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine as we head on down the road.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both the past with down-home customer service in-house and the future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
Beck Communications is hiring. Beck Communications is seeking qualified candidates for plant technicians in our Wheatland, North Dakota location. Beck Communications is an equal opportunity employer. To view the job details, visit www.beck.coop. To apply, email your cover letter and resume to careers@bechtel.coop. Beck Communications, making connections that matter.
If you're a Beck Fiber customer or the dependent of a Beck Fiber customer, you might qualify for scholarships. Beck awards scholarships to seniors headed to college or to students attending University of Mary. Go to www.beck.coop for eligibility guidelines and applications.
The experienced professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless, and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
Did you know the Foundation for Rural Service awards scholarships for rural students? The scholarships range from $2,500 to $7,000. Go to www.frs.org for information and applications.
Welcome back to Down the Road. We're going to be joined now by Dr. Doug Griffin. He is Sanford Health's Vice President in charge of medical, or he's the medical officer, I should say. Dr. Griffin, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We were talking before the break here a little bit about we're making some progress. I was at the state hockey tournament this past weekend, and you know, the Ralph had it so you could socially distance and you had to wear your masks, and everybody's doing that as much as what they can. But you know, in my family, there's been about 5-6 of us, and I got a big family that had COVID, and a whole bunch more that had been vaccinated. Of course, I'm the youngest one in my immediate family, so. You know, we're making some progress, Dr. Griffin.
Yeah, I think we are. You know, we're approaching, you know, upper teens of percent that have been vaccinated. And I think the vaccine supply is starting to really pick up here. I think we'll do that. I had the same conversation over the weekend. You know, I've been vaccinated. A number of my children are teachers. They're getting vaccinated. Some working in healthcare being vaccinated. So actually, like more than half of us have been vaccinated amongst my crew. So
well, that's a good thing to have happen.
Yeah.
How many people are you still seeing turn it down? I mean, I've got some friends that turned it down, and I'm just left scratching my head. I mean, How many are you still seeing say, no, I'm not going to take it?
You know, there is some. I can't give you the exact percentage. Well, we have offered it basically to all of our employee staff. I can tell you that so far, just shy of 75% have accepted the vaccine. So very good. We'd like it to be above 90%. To be honest, I think there's some people are still waiting. They'd like to have more information there as well. But I think there remain some people with some honest concerns. We're going to continue to, like there always is with the vaccine. So we'll continue to work on educating people on it. I think the more and more people that get vaccinated, I think that will encourage more people to get it as well.
Well, I have to tell you, it was made available to rural firefighters. And of course, I live in the rural area. And so when you look at those individuals, they range in age from, 24, 25 to, mid 50s type of an age. And, I was so surprised by how many of them said, I'm not taking it. I was like, look, you jump to the front of the line because you're good enough to volunteer. Why not take advantage of it while you can? And maybe it was how soon it was offered to them, because it was almost right off the bat. But Doc, it left me shaking my head. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate you carrying that message for us, Joel. So we have good options. They're safe and effective.
Well, we're talking about how quick it can get out there. And now, of course, the FDA has approved Johnson & Johnson's single shot COVID-19. How big of a game changer is that?
Well, it could be. It offers the third vaccine that we can now utilize in the United States. A couple of advantages in this one. It's a one-shot regimen. That's good. And then the other one, it can be stored at the normal refrigerated temps that, pharmacies and laboratories are used to storing things at, like our other immunizations, which makes it much easier to move around and gives more options and places that can give the vaccine.
There's a lot of talk about how this vaccine in the studies show that it's not as effective as the others. How does that play in the medical community? Is that, that's what this test showed, but you know what? Let's keep going forward with it.
Yeah, I think you're right. So there's some problems with comparison efficacy. There's always a little bit different in the way the trials are run. Bottom line, appears very effective vaccine. We now have 3 very effective vaccines to use. Safety looks very good on this vaccine as well. I don't think the general public should really worry or parse too much about efficacy of one compared to the other. Really good news on all the vaccines have been extremely successful in preventing hospitalizations and deaths. So, which are the absolute things that we want to prevent.
So, as someone who is yet to be vaccinated, and I'm not sure you get this, do you get an option of which vaccine you get, or is it like, look, this is what's available to you?
Right now, for the most part, it's what's available between the Pfizer and the Moderna. And that, and those are both very, very similar, manufactured on the same front and in the same way, and then two dose regimens. I think it's still for quite a while will be what's available because I think we're waiting to see exactly how and where the Johnson & Johnson will be rolled out. So it might be more to targeted populations, targeted areas as well. So I think for a while yet, for the most part, if you're offered a vaccine, I would take whichever one you're offered and feel quite comfortable with that.
It's clear that you and others at Sanford and our other medical facilities are doing an absolutely fabulous job. If you look at the numbers in North Dakota versus other states, we have a great rate in relation to how many are getting vaccinated. And then you add in the fact that there was a time period, myself included, that many of us got COVID. And so does that mean that North Dakota gets herd immunity earlier?
Well, it could very well be. Actually, the more vaccine more people vaccinated will contribute to that. We are obviously recommending vaccinate even if you've had COVID. The immunity, we think, is a bit different from the vaccine versus COVID. But, unfortunately, we did have many people in the state that got COVID. That does appear to confer some sort of immunity. We're just not how long. but I think the combination of the two will help prevent the vaccine from taking a strong hold in the state in the future.
Any idea percentage-wise how much is being wasted? And the reason I say that isn't as a form of criticism, Doc. That isn't it at all. But people not showing up for an appointment, having more than what you thought you might have, those type of questions. But I've got some friends that went to where the vaccine was being administered, and they said, hey, put me on the list. If you're short at the end of the day, I'll come running 100 miles an hour type of a thing. And they did get their shots. How much of that potentially could or is going on?
I think there is some of that going on because particularly with the Pfizer and the Moderna, once you puncture the vial, you have a limited time that you use it. And we want to make sure we use every vaccine available. Any shot in an arm's a win. To do that, so we're not, parsing if it turns out to be somebody that probably wasn't on the list, but the vaccine was going to go to waste. We should give that vaccine. And that's what we've been doing, and that's what pharmacies and other people are doing. I think the wastage level in North Dakota is very, very small, very minimal, if any.
Good. I mean, I just want my opinion. Good, because I'd rather see, as you put it, any shot in the arm is a good thing. What about the individuals in North Dakota that are saying, like we're nailing it, we're doing a great job? Is it because we're getting more vaccine than other states, or are we just administering it better?
I think we're more efficiently giving it. We're getting, the vaccine is distributed proportionally, mostly based on population. As you may have noticed, we're not the most populous state in the country. But I think a couple of things. We've had the state Department of Health has had worked very diligently with all the health systems and pharmacies and public health across the state, came up with a plan. And the other thing is they've stuck to it and been very consistent. And that helps, that consistency helps people to plan and to make sure they're being very effective in giving the vaccine out.
So for those individuals that are viewing us right now that are saying, look, I haven't even been contacted yet. I'm 67 years old. A friend of mine I was talking to today. What's your advice to him?
I think be patient. Well, first of all, I think it is fine. North Dakota does have the vaccine locator. Feel free to reach out and connect and get on lists in pharmacies and public health. Absolutely fine. We will contact people. We're still working down the list. It's a long list. But I think check in multiple places and for the opportunity and take it when it's available. I think March and April will be busy vaccine months.
There's a lot of people as well that are sitting there saying, look, Dr. Fauci, he's talking about November, those type of times when we finally can kind of loosen up. I don't think it's going to happen that way, Doctor. I think people are going to break out come summer. Do you think that we get, with this many shots in the arm, we get to a place by June where, we're in a place where this country can kind of loosen up?
Yeah, I think we'll know this spring. I think it'll be a big time. If we get good uptake on the vaccine, I agree with you. It's going to be very hard to hold people back all the way through the year. I mean, I think we're already seeing it a bit as well, but I'm optimistic that, I have a daughter getting married in July, and we're hoping it looks like a pretty normal wedding, so I'll tell you that.
I hope so, too. I really hope so. Dr. Griffin, thank you, sir. Thanks for what you're doing. Make sure you tell everybody over there that you work with. Thanks as well.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Dr. Doug Griffin, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, let me give some thoughts with you. There was a call for a resignation over the weekend. Plus, there's people who believe that $15 an hour is too much to pay someone. Wait, I'll repeat that. $15 an hour is too much to pay someone. How many of you make just $15 an hour or $7.25? Stick around. We'll talk about it right after this.
Howdy, folks. It's a Line Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our hay-bossing breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon-rattling pie with a comb roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the game. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the County Line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
When you can't find answers to your recurring health challenges, it can feel like your health and your future are being held hostage. The Wellness Way is a network of health restoration clinics that think and act differently to solve the health challenges others can't. Here, we disrupt the standard approach to care through a combination of testing, individual plans, and one-on-one guidance, putting your health and your future where they belong, in your own hands.
All right, everybody, let's run some numbers if we can. Let's just talk about being that 28-year-old young boy, young woman, I should say young man, young woman. Let's run through some numbers, some monthly numbers, which I think are pretty close to an average of what's happening out there. In fact, I'm going to say they're low, and the low is a safety net for me. Monthly car bill with insurance, how much? How much you think? $500? $500 is modest, but we'll go $500. Let's talk about an apartment. You can't afford a house yet under the scenario that I have here, because all you're making is $7.25 or $15 an hour for that matter. Let's assume that this individual makes $15 an hour, which I might point out $15 an hour means a little over 30 grand a year. That's all it means, 30 grand a year. Now, let's take a look at your apartment. $750? I mean, that's fair. $750 utilities for that apartment. It's going to go along with it. Let's take $150. And yes, they get to have cable TV. Don't sit there and say, well, they can live without cable TV. They get to have cable TV under my scenario. You know, there's no sense in owning a car unless you can put gas in it. So you know what gas prices are doing. They're creeping up a little bit. But the fact that they need gas to go where they're going, possibly work, I've got $100 down for gas a month. Ask yourself, do you spend more than $100 on gas a month? Yes, you do. Student loan. You know, you can sit there and say, well, if they've got a student loan of $400 a month, which I put down here, then they sure shouldn't be working for $15 an hour. Well, as I pointed out earlier, it's $30,000, $15 an hour. How many teachers you know that are starting out at 32 grand a year? So yeah, and they have a 4-year degree, 5-year degree. So I think $400 is being pretty fair there. Healthcare, $100 a month. That's too low. That's lower than what the actual cost is to them, but you know what? We'll leave it at that so you and I don't argue about, you know, the amount. Hygiene, you know, toilet paper, shampoo, conditioner, toothbrush. I mean, pick them. You know, $50 a month is pretty low for that. whether you want to admit it or not. Food, well, you need about $250 or maybe a little more per month. And all these numbers go up drastically in relation to food and hygiene products and all of that if you got a couple kids, right? If you have a couple kids, those numbers aren't anywhere close to what they should be. Clothes. You know, you got a couple kids and yourself, what, $150? It's actually pretty low, I think. $150. Yourself, 80, 100, 120. You can't even live in society today without a cell phone. You can't. It's how employers contact you. It's how you stay in touch with your family. Okay, so let's use $100 there. And we haven't talked about childcare, which is one of the big ones. Childcare is enormous in regards to these mothers trying to get ahead. And so picking them out there. You know, how many kids? I can tell you this, as someone who has daughters that have had to buy childcare, have had to provide childcare for their kids, we're talking about anywhere from $800 to $900 a kid per month. So yeah, it's pretty significant. Now, I want to share with you some of the facts that I've got here in relation to the people that need more pay. But many of you are sitting there saying, well, these are just part-time jobs, Heitkamp. You know, these are part-time jobs. They're just getting started with their careers, and you know, these jobs don't apply whatsoever to the main part of society. Well, see if these numbers jump out at you. 38.6 million adults age 18 and older make minimum wage. They make minimum wage. 23.8 million are full-time workers. 23.8 million are full-time workers. 23 million of them are women. And don't kid yourself. If you look at the lifestyle of someone that's getting child support versus someone that's giving child support, it's two different lifestyles. And it's usually the woman. And the woman receiving child support is nowhere living the lifestyle of that ex-husband, ex-boyfriend. Now, so 23 million women, 11.2 of them are parents. Again, childcare. You want them to work, but, you know, they can't afford to work in many cases. 5.4 million are single parents. And they're the parents of 14.4 million children. That isn't just the person you're pulling up to saying you'll take a hot ham and cheese. That isn't that person, ladies and gentlemen. It isn't. When you look at what's happening with minimum wage, you could make an argument that many of us that are out there who, you know, are support or want minimum wage raised are right when it comes to the federal government. Take a look at SNAP. Take a look at Medicaid. Take a look at low-income housing. Take a look at all the expenses that are incurred by us as taxpayers to deal with those individuals who are not paying enough for their employee. They're not. And so the argument that people make of, well, you know, that employer is going to have, the small business is going to have to cut back then. They're going to have to cut a couple employees. I would ask this question to that small employer. What do you have them employed for in the first place? If you can do your job, if you can provide it without that employee, then you're not a good business manager, and you shouldn't be having that individual as an employee in the first place. I mean, it's that simple. You only hire as many employees as you need. So if you're going to let them go because you're going to have to pay them a little more money, then you know what? You have no standing with me as far as business and business operations. I want to also point out this, that there's a lot of people making $16 an hour that don't want minimum wage raised to $15 an hour because they look at that employee that's receiving $7, $8 an hour and they say, well, they're there. I'm here. I'm doing pretty well. Are you? Are you? Because the expenses that I just gave you versus the income that you have add up where you're not getting ahead. In fact, you're breaking even at best. You're breaking even at best. Now, I didn't take overtime in that. I get it. But, you know, if you look at the amount of overtime that's paid, it really should be a huge part of this equation. So, you're wrong to think that way. You know, you're wrong to think if this individual makes more money, they're going to be closer to me, because here's what I think happens. I think that employer, in order to keep you, is going to pay more money. So I'm not saying $15 an hour is the right dollar amount. I don't believe it should be in the stimulus bill. I don't believe that at all. I think it should be part of a larger debate. I think it should stand on its own. This nation needs a debate over raising minimum wage. And the one thing that I wouldn't give in on one bit, is the fact that it needs to go up. And it needs to go up significantly. And before all of that, I think you need to ask yourself how you live and how much you would be able to live the lifestyle you're living right now on what we're asking those individuals to live on. And I think and one other thing I want to add, for you farmers and ranchers out there, don't look at how much money you have at the end of the year, because you're paying expenses as you go, as far as you're living as you go. All right, when we come back, I'll give you some closing comments as we kind of end our trip right here down the road.
There's nothing more important than family. And at Prairie Rose Family Dentists, we get it. That's why we have more locations, more dentists, specialists, extended hours, pediatric clinics, and even emergency appointments, so you can always be seen. Book your appointment today at prairierosedentist.com. Prairie Rose Family Dentists. We are family.
Deciding how to promote your business can be hard. Visit the professionals at Dakota Promotions and Printing and let them help you through your struggle. Dakota Promotions provides promotional items and apparel, from corporate gifts to team shirts and everything in between. With quick turnaround times and friendly service, they are your best choice. And best yet, you're shopping local. Visit them online at dakotapromo.com or stop in their showroom at 320 West Main in Mandan. Dakota Promotions, delivering promotions just for you.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county.
Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Coulter Samurai and the innovative VRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
They did it, ladies and gentlemen. The Republicans in the House, the leadership, I should say, decided, you know what? We're not going to stand for this, Luke Simons. We're not. We're not going to allow you to go around and physically harass, physically and mentally, sexually harassed women. We're not going to. Well, I shouldn't say that the Republican leaders in the North Dakota House, because one of them wouldn't sign on. One of them basically okayed it by him saying, you know what, I'm not going to sign that document, and that's Kim Koppelman. from West Fargo, the Speaker of the House. That being said, 3 of them did. 3 of them said, we're calling on you to resign. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. They saw the information. They had held meetings with him. They told him either start behaving and knock it off. He didn't do that. He kept doing whatever he wanted to do. And you've seen, if you followed down the road at all, you've seen some of the documents of the complaints that people have brought over Representative Luke Simons. He needs to resign. He's an embarrassment to our whole state. And quite frankly, by being an embarrassment to our state, he's made us an embarrassment to the nation. I mean, that's what Luke Simons is doing. He's got the attention now of the nation in regards to what we think is acceptable here in the great state of North Dakota, our state, our home state. And so, yeah, there's always going to be those individuals. There's always going to be the Kim Koppelmans that say, well, you know, that's just Luke. He's on the ranch and that, you know what? No, you're a state representative. And you know what? I don't want anybody else insulting ranchers. That isn't who ranchers are. That isn't who ranchers are. Ranchers don't stand up for this crap. They don't do that one bit. And so to just sign it, you know what? Contact him. Get a hold of Kim Koppelman. Ask him why this behavior is okay. Why this little ultra-conservative caucus that he and Simons are members of will sit there and have each other's back throughout this whole thing. Maybe, just maybe it's because their hero Donald Trump said it was okay. Or at least he's done it in the past. But I love the fact that the Republicans in the North Dakota House said you have to resign. Now it needs to follow through. The Republican women need to caucus with the men and say, we're not doing this. We're not going to take this. And then get it over to the Senate and get them out of the legislature. That's what needs to happen. It's been good riding with you, folks.